Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show here on Channel 1 Television. On The Point of View, we pick the right topics, we get the right guests, ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you. We're live tonight with a man you could consider one of the men of the moment because he's a minister of a very important sector, telecommunications, digitalization, and innovation. And he's also MP for a very important area, quite a vocal member of parliament. And he's launching a big project, ambitious project on Wednesday, and he says he wants to speak on The Point of View to explain why he believes they can train more than 1 million coders before the 4-year term is over. We have other things to ask him. He will also take your questions because we know this is a customer or consumer-facing sector. So when we come back, some more Jata George, who was caught dancing at his brother's wedding this weekend. He's my guest.
To get polytank.
Oh, and you're right.
Go straight.
No, I want to left, right.
That's right. Ghana na ye wono. So when you do more, and ye data. Oh no! I beg, na here. Me pe polytank at all. And you think I'm in here by you to be able to buy you. Oh, food to be here. I say, enjoy your kura.
Akuya bulambo customer. Emua.
Like they took my eyes. Came to me and go to the distributor, and you give the original polytank. Polytank. You hear the sound?
Polytank, Papa Nankasa Nkasa.
Do you want a healthy smile?
Persistent bad breath could indicate gum disease. I'm Tanya from Bethel Dental Clinic, Ghana. Did you know that gum disease is a common cause of bad breath or halitosis? But there is hope. As dental hygienists, one of the main things we do when you come for your periodic visits is to examine your gum health by completing a periodontal assessment. Gingivitis, the early stage of gum disease, is common and characterized by swollen, bleeding gums and halitosis. The good news is that gingivitis can be reversed back to healthy gum tissue. Regardless of which stage is present, a professional cleaning or deeper cleanings are needed as a first step to treating halitosis or bad breath. So, schedule your appointment with your hygienist now to learn more about maintaining healthy gums and getting rid of bad breath.
Healthy smile.
Welcome back. So tonight my guest is Nita George. He's known also as Jata MP for Ningo Pram Pram and Minister for, I'm getting used to the name now, Communication,
Digital Technology
and Innovations.
Yes.
That's a huge portfolio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bernard.
How are
Good
you doing?
To be here. It's a pleasure. Happy New Year. I think this is...
Yeah, we haven't spoken this year.
Like or seen each other this year, so it's
when people get to the government, it's difficult to get them.
No.
You've been in office for 66 days.
Yes, please.
Wow. So 2 months and a few coins.
Yeah.
How has it been so far?
God's grace has been sufficient. It's been a whirlwind of activities. At times I sit back and wonder if I've not been at post for a year already. A lot has happened. We've taken decisive action. We've set out with a clear vision of what we want to do. I keep saying that I'm one of the people who will not have an excuse to give the people of Ghana or President Mahama, because for 8 years I've been on the committee overseeing this committee, been one of the most critical voices of the previous administration, chaired the manifesto committee on the digital economy, ICT and innovation. And so basically I think that my work is cut out for me. President Mahama has shown a big amount of trust to put me in this office, and it's trust I intend to repay with diligence and excellence.
He's been in office for 97 days,
yes,
which means that 30 days more than you.
Yeah.
It was very clear he wanted you to be his communication minister. There seems to be a certain method he used. A lot of you who were ranking members became the ministers. Some were also deputy ministers who graduated. But for you, you were not a deputy minister.
No, in his first term I was a presidential staffer.
So this is, how different is it being the ranking member on the committee in Parliament to becoming the substantive minister?
Well, it's a world of difference. One, you're firing the shots, you're behind the barrel. The other, you're in front of the barrel. The shots are being fired at you. And so, I mean, the expectation is huge, especially, like I keep saying, because of the manner in which I went about my job as ranking member. I was very critical of the minister. I did not hold back when I thought that decisions were taken wrongly. And so, I mean, the expectation is clear, and I've set out to unravel many of the things that I had issues with as ranking member, setting straight, in fact, basically leveling every mountain and filling up every valley is basically what we're doing to make it a plain and make sure that Ghanaians get the best kind of service in that sector.
You were vetted for 5 hours, 2 minutes. Minority asked you 218 questions, of which Afenyo Marking asked you 196. Some say you brought this upon yourself because of the way you conducted your politics. So, in hindsight, would you say that maybe the way you conducted your opposition politics could have been a bit different?
No, I'll do it again 1,000 times.
Same way?
Yeah, same way. I mean, a man must have conviction. A man must stand by what he believes in. And I think that when people see the appointments committee or the vetting committee as a platform to settle scores or to basically exact vengeance, it's unfortunate. I thought that Afenyo could have asked, or any other person could have asked, the same number of questions if they were related to the sector. I was being vetted not on my opinions of the Chief Justice or the former president. I was being vetted to occupy the position as Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation. And I honestly thought that a golden opportunity was lost at the vetting to dive deep into the sector and for me to be able to show the country that I was the best fit, what President Mahama saw to appoint me. I thought that the committee lost its focus in that.
Could it be that because you were ranking member for 8 years, they know what you can do in telco, so that was in their interest? And number two, because the kind of policies you did, you shot many things. You spoke about Galamsey, you spoke about LGBTQ, you spoke about the CJ, National Cathedral. So in a sense, you were not just focused on your sector. So it's fair game.
Well, that's why I didn't take offense to it, and I said I took it in my stride. I was prepared for it. I knew what to expect. I knew that I was one of the people who the minority was going to try to make a case with. Mentally, I was prepared for it, and I thought that I think it was fair sport. I mean, like you rightly pointed out, I had an opinion about almost everything, and so it was fair to ask me questions about everything. And that's why even there were instances where the chairman thought that I should decline comments, and I said no, I will answer, because I thought that so long as the Ghanaian people asked a question through a member of parliament, I owe them a response, and I believe that I acquitted myself creditably.
So I like something you said where you say you must stand by your convictions, and you quote the Bible a lot, but there's also a view that sometimes when you, on hindsight, you should be able to back down. I noticed they pressed you a lot on the CJ, and you profess Christianity, as does she. And I noticed during the discussion around her some of the things you said about her, you were given many opportunities to try and, I want a word, sort of tidy up some of the things you said about her, and you declined all of it. Why was that the case?
Again, maybe because the things I criticized the CJ about were from a place not just of conviction, but of our shared faith. And I believe that for those of us who profess our faith openly and wear our faith on our sleeves, the standards are very high. And so it's important that we set a certain bar and a certain standard. And again, these are my opinions. They are not sacrosanct. I may be wrong, but however, I held the view, and I still hold the view, that on some of the issues, I actually think that subsequent actions of the CJ have vindicated me. Because my biggest gripe with the CJ at the time was the lack of her using the agency of her office to impose agency in the case. After the demonstration, you saw her begin to give timelines, which is exactly what my argument had been. And we moved on. post the elections, you saw the way she dispensed with the case expeditiously. So it is not to say that what I was asking of her was unreasonable. It was well within her office, but for whatever reason, she failed to act.
But you notice that now that you're in government, the speed with which that same law is being implemented. In fact, there's no law because there's a new parliament. But we don't see the same level of fervor. We don't hear much about it anymore.
So let me just state for the records that we have resubmitted the bill, because I mean the view that's held is that, even though I hold the contrary view, but the prevailing view in Parliament is that the law lapsed with the 8th Parliament. And so we've come together again. A number of us signed the same bill as was passed by Parliament. No edits, no change. We've laid it before Parliament, but the issue now is that Parliament has changed the standing orders. Previously, when you submitted a private member's bill, it just went straight to the Constitutional and Legal Parliamentary and Legal Affairs Committee, and then you started your public hearings and all. Now there is a standing committee on private members' bills. The process has changed. So we've laid it before the speaker. We've submitted it to the speaker. He's referred it to the committee. The committee has gone on recess now. The Parliament is on recess, and so we're hoping that when Parliament comes back from recess, the committee would start its public hearings, and then we'll proceed with it. So for me, again, don't forget that when I laid the bill originally in 2021, it was not until 2023 that we began to see the public sittings and all of that. When I laid the bill the first time, for over 18 months, there was a lot of quiet in Parliament. There was a lot of conversation in the media, but it was quiet in Parliament because it had to go through a setting process in Parliament. So it's not new. So it's fair for people to say, oh, we're not hearing anything, but the parliamentary process will be followed.
So at what point would you begin to apply the kind of pressure you applied in the last term for this bill? At what point would you consider that it's delaying?
Well, like I said, it's been about 4 weeks since we submitted the bill.
Okay.
And like I said, I walked about almost 23 months the first time before we began to see the movement on the floor of the House. And so at least let's give ourselves...
But since the work has already been done, it should move faster.
I'm hopeful. But like I said, the committees were changed. We only had our committee leadership determined about 2 weeks ago. So committees are now actually being set up in Parliament. The committees are now coming to terms with what... So let's allow the committees to be formed properly. Let them be seized with the material before them. And then I will begin to apply pressure on the committee. Because, well, when we laid it before, Mr. Speaker, there was no chairman of the committee. So who was I going to put pressure on to work on? Because at that time, both the majority and the minority had not determined the membership of the committees. That was done. So the 8 of you who pushed this
I think
bill? This time we're even more than 8.
Okay, because some have left Parliament.
Some have left Parliament and new people have come on. I think we're about 12 this time.
But you are all from the NDC this time.
Oh, no.
They're also MPP as well.
You see, now interestingly, and that's at times, I don't want to call it politics of convenience, but interestingly, persons who didn't want to have their names on the bill from the MPP side 4 years ago have jumped on it now and put their names. Right now, I think you even have almost the same split of NDC MPP on the bill. So
if somebody said you exploited the bill for political advantage, what would be your reaction? That I don't doubt that you believe in the content of the bill, but you also saw a political advantage to be gained in painting the opposition, the government at the time, as not being in favor of Ghanaian family values, which is why you pushed it to the limit that you pushed it.
Well, that would be unfair. My actions speak to the contrary. If I'm right, I believe the president had said that he believes this bill should be handled by the state.
The current president?
Yes. But based on my personal convictions.
Okay.
At my vetting, I indicated that because this was pushed by my personal beliefs and by my chiefs who were present at my vetting, I would reintroduce the bill as a private member's bill. The government will have the liberty to take it over whilst it's before Parliament.
Okay.
I've stuck to my word. So if it was political expediency, I would have hidden behind the president's comments and said I was waiting for the president to bring in the bill as a government bill. I have stuck to my guns, stuck to my principles again and my morals, and shown that I'm a man of my words.
So if it delays probably 2027, you will do a demo like you did in 2024.
If I need to do a demo against the Chief Justice, if it goes to court, because don't forget, the demo I did was against the Chief Justice, wasn't against Parliament.
The delay.
The
perceived delay.
Yes, yeah.
I see. I'm trying to clear non-telco issues so that we'll have a free chance to talk about 1 million coders.
Not a problem at all, man.
again, you are quoted to have said that President Mahama can deal with Galamsey in 5 days.
No, I never said so. What I said was the president at the time could have dealt with Galamsey in a week because he was commander-in-chief.
In a week, yes. So he's been in office for 97 days.
Yes.
Has he dealt with it?
Well, I believe that action has been taken. It's not been conclusive. And again, it would be unfair to expect that President Mahama in 96 days will fix the rot of 8 years. When I made those comments about President Akufo-Addo, I didn't make those comments at the beginning of his term. I made those comments about 3 months to the end of his term, when he had had the opportunity. He had expended taxpayers' money in Operation Vanguard. And you had rather seen instances of the people who were supposed to fight this becoming complicit in it. So President Akufo, at the time I made that criticism of President Akufo-Addo, he had had the benefit of almost 8 years in office, a full grasp of the state machinery. He had had the opportunity to take action. Under President Mahama, in 90 odd days, and don't forget, his ministers being in office 60 odd days, you've seen action that has recovered 7 forest reserves from illegal miners. Can we do more? Absolutely. Do I expect to see more? Certainly. But again, like I said, it would be unfair to expect that in 90 days, one man will clean the mess of another for 8 years.
So the 1 week point was in relation to the then president?
Yes.
Not that your candidate, our president now, could have solved it.
My tweet was very clear. I said President Akufo-Addo, the buck stopped with him because he was commander-in-chief.
But then did you say that Mahama could deal with it in a week?
No, I never said so.
You said Akufo-Addo should have dealt with it in a week?
Yes.
Okay, maybe my people pull up the tweet just to be clear.
They can pull up the tweet and I can be quoted verbatim.
In politics, we also need to be consistent.
Yes.
And then we need to be clear in
I
the
think
things we say.
I myself will be able
just
to
be
pull
sure.
it up. Yeah, so that we can all have a look at it. But I mean, as you proceed, I'll find.
But you admit that the pace that this government is using to fight Galamsey is much slower than we anticipated.
But Bernard, again, it comes back to anticipation, and anticipation is, look, the level of anticipation for me actually speaks to how low we had sunk under the previous administration. That people expect that in 8 weeks or say 12 weeks of President Mahama's government, what they had seen, the mess that we had seen for 8 years will be fixed, speaks to how poorly.
No, don't find it, don't worry. But don't forget that this is not Mohammed's first term.
So I'm going to read a tweet. I'm going to read a tweet.
Yes.
I made a tweet on the 29th of September 2024.
Please read it for me.
The man who is paid to be president has the ultimate power to end this in a week if he wants. He's commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, for Christ's sake. This was the quote.
And is this not generic to a president?
I was speaking to the man
at the time.
It was made in November. That was the time when we were at our wits' end. That was the time when the civil society, I made this tweet at the time, the TUC had threatened to go on strike.
Yeah.
The day the president was meeting TUC and urging them to step down from strike, they issued 12 new mining licenses in forest reserves.
Okay. In terms of forest reserve, by the way, why did this government choose not to repeal LI 2462, which gives the right for people to be mining forest reserves? Looking at the level of opposition to that, to say that you are only removing the president's power to sort of veto the minister, that's quite, I mean, limited.
I hold the personal view that the whole LI should be repealed. That's my personal view.
Would you advocate for that in Parliament?
Absolutely.
But the matter was debated. I didn't hear you.
Unfortunately, I wasn't in Parliament on the day.
Where were you?
I was serving the country at another function.
Okay. Well, sometimes you need to put it on record. So let me hear you clear. You're saying that your personal view is that LI 2462 should go in its entirety.
It should go in its entirety. It should be repealed in its entirety. Because look, I still hold the personal view that Galamsey is a crime against humanity.
Wonderful.
And irrespective of which political party is in government, whether it is the NDC or the NPP, and irrespective of who it is that's engaged in Galamsey, it is illegal and must be dealt with holistically.
Okay. You can tell from the questions I'm asking you that there's a lot of expectation on the government.
Sure.
But also because the victory was very big.
Yes.
And so you've said that 8 years, a lot of bad things happened. But I don't think we've seen this type of victory before, probably except Rawlings' time. So that should tell you that there was a lot of dissatisfaction with the MPP.
Yeah.
Now, how do you interpret that pressure as a new government?
It means we can't fail. It means we can't tinker with solutions. It means that we should not try or carry out trials. We must go straight. If our decision is to deal with something, we must be forthright with it. We must deal with it because look, the Ghanaian people have entrusted us with a certain level of leadership. Like you said, that's unprecedented. Not even Rawlings, with the exception of the 92 parliament, which was boycotted. There's been no competitive parliamentary election where a president has the kind of majority that President Mahama has now. It is a clear statement of intent on the part of the Ghanaian people that they expect us to be ruthless with dealing with corruption. They expect us to be candid and forthright with dealing with graft and anything that affects the livelihood of the Ghanaian people. They expect us to deliver with candor in everything that has been entrusted to us. And that's why, for me, I hold the view that it's not in line or in tandem with the kind of margins that we've been giving if we do not go straight and deal with issues as ought to be dealt with. And I'm setting the example in my ministry. I'm not beating around the bush. When I believe that something has to be dealt with, I deal with it decisively, irrespective of what is said about me. I mean, the minorities called me Idi Amin in Parliament. I mean, I take it in my stride.
The ministry that you've been appointed to, I can say, is a very strategic ministry because I think the president has said that technology is quite central to what he's trying to achieve. I'm looking at the list of former ministers. I've seen John Bahama. In fact, I've seen Ekospi Ogabra, Mike Ironokwe. I've seen Albert Kandapa, Felix Owusu Ejipong. I've seen Haruna Idrisu. I've seen Omane Boama, Esla Owusu Ekufo. So these are heavyweights, significant names. Just talk to me a bit about what the president said to you in terms of what he expects you to do in this role.
The president is clear what technology is the role technology is going to play in his administration. I mean, and when I took over office, I met with the directors and CEOs of the ministry and made the point clear to them that the president's vision is clear. It actually reflects in the nomenclature of the ministry right now that we are a facilitating ministry. Our work cuts across. And if you look at the work that we've done in the last 8 weeks, we've literally laid out the roadmap for a lot of other ministries. So take, for example, my former leader and big brother, Haruna Idris, who is working on some connectivity for schools in his ministry, education. At the layer and base of that is my ministry, building the tech platform for that kind of connectivity and spelling out what the specification should be. My brother and former chief whip, Abuja, is looking to reintroduce road tolls using technology so that you don't have people sitting there, but you have scanners that scan the number plates. But then that means that he also has to deal with my brother Nikpe at transport. So the RFID plates and the RFID readers have to be compatible, and the payment gateways that are going to process that for my brother too are also technology driven. We're sitting at the back of that. The whole of government approach that we're building for all the government services is all layered. In fact, even tourism and culture. When I was in Barcelona for the Mobile World Conference, I met with UNESCO. I had a side bilateral with UNESCO where basically what we were doing was to use and leverage technology to drive the Ghanaian story of slave trade and make it a tourism attraction. So that, look, using technology, school kids who do not have the ability to travel to Ghana to Elmina will be able to have a full virtual experience of what Elmina is and sell Ghana as a focal point to people outside of the world. And it's a technology-driven thing. The creative arts. Look at what Ibrahim Mahama is doing up north with red clay.
This is the artist, by the way.
Artist, yes.
Not the businessman.
No, the artist Ibrahim Mahama. Yeah. And how we can use NFTs to create a whole new ecosystem of revenue generation for what he's doing, technology. So our ministry is actually situated right in the heart of government. Okay. And what we're doing is facilitating the uptake, using innovation, using artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, IoTs. That's why our name now has digital tech and innovation. You're talking about agric. And you're talking about precision farming and how farmers will now be able to use technology to be able to cut out middlemen in the sale of their crops, because now they have a commodity exchange where they can use USSD codes, not even having to have a smartphone. That's the power of technology. That's a collaboration between us and them. Health tech and the things that we can do to make sure that right now when ambulances move with a critical patient, there's a central control room that's able to say to them, there's an available bed in this hospital, so that you don't have a critical case hospital hopping and you lose critical time to say, this is all technology driven. And that's where we sit now. So we basically see ourselves as the fulcrum for government. Defense. The wars of the future are not going to be fought just with armored tanks. There's cyber warfare and drones. You understand? Even Galamsey, there is a technology-driven solution to dealing with Galamsey, because you see, and that's a conversation I've been having with the defense minister and the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. You can use the power of fiber to detect when heavy earth-moving equipment are moving into forest reserves. You don't need to put and position soldiers there who are human beings who can get compromised. And so you can, with the power of technology, sitting in the ministry or sitting in the Flagstaff House, get a detection of any earth-moving equipment moving within a certain radius.
So if I get you
your water bodies and your forest reserves.
So your ministry is not necessarily a sector; it's like an enabler, because
that's the point.
It's not like agric,
no
finance. It touches everybody.
We touch everybody.
We'll come and look at his priorities. He has listed 5 priorities. Indeed, he held a press conference on Wednesday, and he says the first big thing he's going to do is this coming Wednesday, 1 million quotas. We'll deal with some of his priorities, and then some of the policy issues that have come up: SIM registration or re-registration, depending on where you sit. The issue of the telco sector and lack of competition, 5G network rollout, some of the things he wants to change in terms of new laws he wants to implement and all that, plus your questions and comments. This is live edition of The Point of View. Stay with us.
In a fast-growing urban environment like Accra, safety is as important as the air that we breathe. Hear the real stories from those who now feel safe like never before with Response One.
Hello Ghana, I'm Tommy Ananforson. Our homes are our sanctuary. But safety is not all about locks, fences, and cameras. This is where Response One comes in. Their advanced monitored alarm system just doesn't record crime, it prevents it. In moments of danger, Response One's 24/7 monitoring ensures immediate help. With their theft protection guarantee, this is true peace of mind. I trust Response One to keep my family safe. You should too. Visit responseoneghana.com or call 0302 Secure 1.
Response One. Stay connected, stay protected.
Fire pomudi ni agobi Ghana fueni agi efise ya your local spices na ya frafra dia ya sankofa natural spice
Me de gumi jollof mu me misti wa hodoma emane dance
Stanley the barbecue the go on
sankofa natural spices and one you use 100% natural said the happen
Adofo mamunye huge mistake sankofa natural spices
FDA ejedi nkratu yatu.
Remember who we are singing now. At risk of prostate enlargement. We a member or her 20 ebitimi prostate cancer. 5 bitimi afamu na dia obefamu. Actually, this is not my fault.
Why?
And to wada entina medi mani Executive Prostate Center.
Executive Prostate Center is a unique medical center where we harmonize in-depth traditional medicine with cutting-edge science and technology to cure, to treat, and to prevent diseases like prostate enlargement, prostate cancer.
Executive Prostate Center. Madame facilities no any professional medical care.
Sisi a bibia clear system ye nro ne so de natural into we koso afama ye.
Executive Prostate Center. My cured.
Welcome back. My guest is MP for Ningo Prampram Samuel Nate George. He's known as Jata, and he's one of many interesting Samuels in politics. You have Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, his friend. The two had the longest vetting. You were vetted 5.5 hours. I think he was vetted the same amount of time. I suspect if Sami Jemfi had been nominated as a minister, his birthday was probably longer. Because he also, Sami, there's also Sami Ewuku.
Yeah.
And then which other Sami is controversial?
Samuel Atamensa.
No, he's a different, he's not a politician. So, I mean, which other one is
Samuel Atachia.
Yeah, and then I think Samuel
Abujinapo.
Ah, my God. And then Samuel Atamils. Samuel Atamils is not controversial. No. Samuel Abujinapo, Sami Jemfi, Sami Ewuku, Sami Jata George.
Oh, am I controversial?
Very, very. You said you had 5 priorities, and the first one was the 1 million coders.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What does that mean? You are going to train people to code, 1 million people?
So the 1 million coders is basically what you call maybe a trade name.
Okay.
But it's actually about 1 million digital skills. Okay. So it's about digital skills, equipping people. The world we live in is not a world where we're talking about the future. Artificial intelligence is not the future, it's the present. Internet of Things is all around us. I mean, today you're able to connect your phone to your laptop, to your TV, even your fridge is all connected. And so we're leaving artificial intelligence at this point in time. It's important that we reskill and upskill our people. And so we're looking to have Ghana as that hub that is able to uptake artificial intelligence and be the hub for Africa. Because when you look at AI today, most of the tools and the machine learning models are all Caucasian and Western centered. However, when you look at the demographics of the world, by 2030, 1 in 4 human beings will be African. It's a critical demographic that's not well captured in there. I always use the example of facial recognition. Facial recognition technology that exists today is 99.8% accurate with Caucasian males.
You can't identify your face.
But when it comes to black men, it's 49%. 49% accurate. And so you need, but that's because they don't have the data. They don't have to teach the models. And that's why we need to begin to build the data. And so for us, the 1 million coders is tied to a number of other things that we need to do, because you need to then, as you build for the future of the current reality of artificial intelligence, you need to have the skill set. So you need to have data governance people, because your AI models are going to sit on big data. And once you have big data, you must have data governance frameworks in place. You must have cybersecurity in place. And that's what the 1 million coders is doing, is building the critical human capital for the current reality of technology that we're sitting. So we're training people, not just we're going to train people in hardcore coding, but everybody who is doing any program, whether you're doing data forensics or data privacy or data governance, whether you're doing cybersecurity or cloud computing or AI engineering, you will still do basic coding. But we're having all of these other models, which is going to make Ghana a home destination for BPOs. Are these people
secondary school, university? What level of people are these?
Anybody, even if you've never sat in the classroom.
Really? Because some of the courses I'm seeing.
Yes.
Certified cybersecurity professional.
Yes.
Certified network support technician.
Yes.
These things very wild. Are you saying that SS graduate or JHS graduate can study these things?
Bernard, some of our kids in private schools are beginning to learn cloud computing in year 5.
I understand this, but I'm saying that the courses that the Kofi Annan is going to run.
Yes, we've got
open-ended.
Yes, and we've got multiple layers. There's the beginner, there's the intermediate, there's the advanced. Okay. And so when you get in, even if you have no skill set whatsoever, you start as a beginner.
Okay.
You get the beginner certification, then you can proceed to the next level, which will be the intermediate, and then you have the advanced. And so it's not just meant for young people, even civil servants. We expect that at a certain point in time, we're going to have engagements with the head of civil service. Yeah. Civil servants are supposed to take a model or another, because Bernard, everybody today, you are a journalist. I'm sure you use ChatGPT.
Sometimes.
Absolutely. That's technology. That's Internet of Things. How you use ChatGPT will determine how it even responds to you, whether it's ChatGPT or Grok or Perplexity or whatever. You know, any of those tools you're using. If you're a finance person, you're using analytic tools today to do your spreadsheets. All of this, you need to have training. You cannot be in the civil service and not be AI native. You see, we've been talking about having digitally native people. So that's when people were saying, oh, now you see people CV, they say, I'm proficient in Word, Excel. You know, people are trying to show they're digital native. Now we're talking about AI natives.
So let me just get this straight. It's not necessarily coding.
No.
Coding will be part.
Yes.
But you have introduced courses to be run by which institution?
So currently with the pilot, we're running with the research and development wing of the ministry, which is the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT.
Just next to Parliament?
Right next to Parliament and the ministry.
So those are, and they are going to offer 6 or 7 modules?
That's just for the pilot.
For the pilot?
For the pilot. In the long run, we're going to be doing over 20 models. Because take, for example, we're almost done with an agreement with Google.
Okay.
To run their program. We're also talking to Amazon about that. And so these are all specialized courses and verticals that are going to come on stream. We have the conversation. We've signed an MOU with MTN, where MTN is also going to be doing some critical support. MTN is building its second AI lab in the whole of Africa. There's only one that MTN has right now in South Africa. They're bringing the second one into Ghana. It's going to be a center of excellence. Today I had a meeting with professors from University of Ghana. There's a joint collaborative program called the Digital Youth Village. That's actually going to be a center of excellence in artificial intelligence that's running there. So you've got all of these verticals. We've got in over 40 proposals. University, UENR, UNIE, and Sunyani, the Department of Computer Engineering has brought us a proposal on how they want to partner and train students. In fact, tomorrow, before the launch, there is, thanks to Honorable Haruna Idrisu, I'm having a call with vice chancellors of all public universities. Because again, one of the key things we're going to do is ensure that every university student, before you graduate, and that's one of the things we want to have a conversation
so
with
this
them.
is great. What I need to do as a journalist, I want to know how to track the 1 million. By the way, is 1 million just the sort of the nickname, or do you literally mean that you will train up to 1 million people?
Bernard, if the president finds me worthy and God shows me grace and I sit in that ministry for 4 years, I will bring you specifics, individuals, names.
1 million people?
In fact, and we will do in excess of 1 million.
Yeah, sure.
I would give you in this community, in this district, in this region, in this institution, in this ministry.
And they will all be certificated.
Yes.
At various levels. So let's do some maths here.
Yeah.
You are doing 4 regions for starters.
Yes.
And I'm sure about 250 per cohort.
Yes.
So which means that this first pilot,
we're doing 2 streams because of the 24-hour economy.
That will be about,
we're doing 2 streams.
So 4 times.
So about 520. We have about 520 in the 2 streams.
For starters.
For starters.
And you're telling me that in 4 years you can reach 1 million.
Yes.
Explain how that's going to happen.
Okay. So take for example, if I and that's what I was going to with the universities, for example. When we were in the university, they introduced com skills.
Yes, they call it African studies. But they introduced other core courses for everybody.
Yes, and it said everybody, irrespective of what you are doing, you must do English language, com skills, some 2 credit course. Without that, you won't graduate.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen with the 1 million coders as well. Every university student that will graduate from Ghana will definitely, certainly have to do one of the models as a prerequisite for graduation. These are the kinds of conversations we're having.
So you take all the university students in Ghana who
478,000 currently now in our universities, in just public universities, not even private universities. And then you now talk about the yearly streams of first years that are going to go in.
Speak, universities don't have digital technology as a prerequisite yet?
No.
So you are going to
if you are doing a tech-based course, definitely, but there's no prerequisite for you to do any of the programs we are having a conversation about.
So this is both private and public universities.
Yes, you are going to
ask that everybody before they graduate.
Starting with the public universities, and I'm sure the private universities will come.
Are you going to give them any resources to help them?
Absolutely. The ministry is going to be supporting the universities with the logistics.
So by your calculation, the public universities will take about half of this, and the rest will be people who go through these other programs.
We have 280 community information centers. At the moment, we have about 7 functional regional innovation centers. And these are all verticals where we can do trainings in, because the idea is that in every district, you must have a cohort in that district that's trained. Because don't forget, when we're training people to be data governance specialists, reason being that we expect the National Health Insurance Authority to be more data governance sensitive going forward, because when you're talking about taking people's data, health data, for example, it must be managed and handled properly.
Okay.
An institution like the National Health Insurance is present in every district. Do they have a data protection specialist in every district? I believe the answer is no. If that's the case, we need to provide them the critical skill in every district where you can employ local competence to work. Every assembly that's processing data needs to have a data processor. So you need to train people locally. They're all online right now. They need to have cybersecurity specialists who are going to watch what they do. So you're training people in every single district to be able to meet the demand of where we're going as a country.
So are you saying that there are jobs available that require these people to be trained, or you're training these people to create their own jobs?
So what you're doing is, that's why I said you're doing reskilling. There are people who are already in employment who can be reskilled to meet this job. There are people who we're also training who are going to become entrepreneurs. Don't forget, one of the things the ministry is doing is the Innovation and Startup Bill, which is supposed to create a whole innovation ecosystem and startup ecosystem where startups move from being startups into our innovation incubators, and from there move into our accelerator programs. That's where the 50 million Fintech Development Fund kicks in. So everything we're doing is connected. You know, I was telling the lecturers today, the ministry, I see it like the kente cloth. Okay, it's individual strings woven intricately to give you that beautiful masterpiece. And so every policy we've announced is interwoven. Now you're looking to also attract some segment of what is almost $500 million in market valuation, the BPO ecosystem, business process outsourcing. Another President Mahama administration, Mahama version 1.0, and for allow me to do that because this is a tech conversation. Mahama version 1.0 between 2013 to 2016, on one of his outreaches, he made a pitch to American businesses to invest in Ghana. And at that time, a business that was handling the back end for the New York Police Department set up shop in the Pyramid House here in Accra. And so when a policeman in New York stopped you and was punching his device to give you the ticket, the data processing was happening here in Accra. That's what we want to do. We are centered in a unique geographic location where, with a 24-hour economy, you can do an early morning shift that serves that's serving the East. You can do a midday shift that's serving Africa and Europe, and you can do a late night shift that's serving the West. And so you need to attract the BPO ecosystem into the country. I've met with a BPO chamber already, and we're looking to attract more of such businesses in here. If you have the critical skill, with the new policy direction in the United States, especially around artificial intelligence, a lot of AI companies are looking to outsource their innovation and research and development R&D simply because there are tighter restrictions now in the US. They would only move to Ghana if you are able to give them the opportunity to invest here. Google, which is one of the big top 10 tech companies, has this AI lab situated here in Ghana. Why can't we get Alphabet? Why can't Meta? Why can't we get Twitter? This is where we're going.
I hear you. Business process outsourcing, knowledge process outsourcing, very good. Ghana is center of the world, but a couple of issues. The infrastructure. So, for example, you need reliable, accessible, affordable data. For this to work. A lot of people believe that data costs are still very high. The main service providers network appears clogged. So even if BPOs came here to set up and these people get employed, the slow pace of our data, how expensive it is, will probably give Ghana a disadvantage compared to other comparative countries. So what's your assessment of that issue and how are you going to deal with it?
I agree that data should be and can be cheaper. And that's why I set up the data pricing committee. I gave them a 14-day mandate. They delivered their report in 13 days. Their report was a roadmap to achieving this. There's short-term, medium-term, and long-term policy plans that will be put in. The regulator is currently working with the MNOs to roll out some of the short-term measures. Part of that is, and even quality of service. Part of that is the reason why I granted MTN tech neutrality and granted them additional spectrum. I've made an additional offer of spectrum to Telecel as well to improve their network, because the truth of the matter is the networks are congested. And once the networks are congested, it affects quality of service. So I'm providing them more spectrum, and I'm going to drive a hard demand for quality of service. Failure to meet the quality of service now that I've given them tech neutrality and additional spectrum will result in very stiff fines.
I agree with that, but 2 points. AT and Telecel were both given tech neutrality 2 years ago.
Yes.
It hasn't done anything for them.
Because they failed to invest the critical necessary resources. You don't just get the tech neutrality or spectrum without investing in the network. Physical cash must be put in the network. And so I've had meetings with the CEO and the ownership of Telecel and said to them, we need to see a plan to invest cash. You see, people must bear in mind, and that's why I said, look, it's been, 60-something odd days. I'm dealing with 80 years of rotten mismanagement at the ministry. Before Telecel came into Ghana, there were conditions that were supposed to have been met. Those conditions were not enforced by my predecessor and by the previous government. There was critical investment that ought to have been put in the network, was not done. 80, an illicit marriage between two failing companies, Airtel and Tigo. Private investors who failed to invest in their businesses for 5 years. The businesses were basically end of life. Today, if I were to give 80 is 100% Ghana or government owned. If I were to give 80 5G spectrum today, they can't use it because their network cannot even support 4G. The core and billing are end of life. They support only 3G because nobody made a critical investment. We should not have stepped in the way we did.
So what should the minister have done with Airtel and Tigo?
Better
allow
policy
them to collapse,
better policy supervision, and then you should have allowed the market forces to take action. And what you would have done was to have built an assimilation package for the 300 workers, 300 core staff.
So that would have meant we had only MTN and then Telecel. If we are to follow that trajectory, if she was to follow that trajectory.
If you look at the size of our market, any business that's operating below 30% market share will not survive.
From what you're saying, only MTN will survive because the latest numbers I have, if you guys can put it up, for all the three categories, voice, revenue, market share, MTN has 86, Telecel has 11, the other two has 3. Customer market share, 81, 8. So basically, if what you are saying is true, in 3 years' time, only MTN will exist.
This is a result of poor policy decision by the previous minister.
No problem. What is the solution?
Should I explain to you?
No, I understand how we got here.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah.
SMP is supposed to have been a tool that was supposed to be used administratively to fix this. But you see, you don't just apply SMP without enforcing the other side of the coin. SMP is one side of a two-side coin. Because you see, when she imposed SMP on MTN, MTN had 62% market share. 2 years after imposing SMP, now they're over 74% market share. So have you done right with the SMP?
Fair enough. So you can even say that it has worsened the quality of service MTN gives.
Absolutely, because now their network is stretched. And so what you need to do is to inject critical investment. And that's what I've done. Because look, no matter how you have the scenario where as minister, should I stifle MTN?
No, but what I'm saying
stifle their growth.
Your decision is basically saying we need better service. MTN has the investment. Give them the neutrality so they can use their spectrum to do what they have to do.
Improve their quality of service. There. But then you also have to make sure that investment goes into the other vehicles to match up.
There are 2 issues here. By giving MTN the neutrality, inevitably, AT and Telecel are going to be wiped out.
No.
That's number one.
No.
And number two, the whole 5G conversation with next-gen Infraco and the fact that they were supposed to have a 10-year exclusive for the 5G, MTN hasn't really told us they are going to go on that. So inevitably, your policy may also mean that there will be a challenge with what happens to that arrangement for the 5G as well.
Well,
let's do the first one. These two companies in the red and the blue, if the policy you've implemented, even though it will help customers in the short term, these two companies will be wiped out.
No. If the other players in the market have critical investment, they will attract customers. If you look at the numbers, for example, with Telecel, in the last 7 months, they've stopped losing customers. They've stagnated. So right now, they are no longer losing customers. They've plateaued in terms of that. What they now need is critical investment to begin to attract new customers. Because you see, if they had improved their network, whilst you're having challenges, when people are having challenges on network A, if network B is offering a better service, people follow quality of service. But if network B is not improving its network, then people are forced to stay with network A. So what you need to see is make sure that the critical investments, which were conditions precedents, before you did those sales are now properly enforced.
So if somebody doesn't have money to invest in his business, what can the government do? So for example, right now, Telecel, you're giving them net neutrality. You're basically saying to them, I'm not going to restrict you. You can use your 3G, 4G, do what you want to do to improve service. What if they don't have money?
Except 5G.
What will you do? Yes, they don't have money.
Well, there are regulatory tools that we can apply.
But this is capital. I don't have money. Are you going to say they should list?
Well.
And if you say they should list, how do you know Ghanaians have money?
No.
Are you going to force the bank to give them money?
So Bernard, you see, you are assuming, don't forget that there is a shareholding that government holds in there.
And government hasn't played this part for the past how many years? I remember the last time government gave Telecel anything.
Well, that's incorrect. Government gave Telecel 4G spectrum.
Now it's not money. We are looking for money now. You give the person spectrum, but that spectrum.
Do you know the value of spectrum?
No, I know, but
currently, Telecel's indebtedness is in excess of $70 million to government. That's government money. That's your tax money.
You're saying
that's revenue. That should be coming to the regulator. That government is saying you hold it and use it to capitalize your business. Let me tell you something. If government were to tell MTN today that we want to give you spectrum and take shares, MTN would jump at it. So spectrum is gold in this business. It is equity in this business. And so it is incorrect when people say that government has not done anything for its shareholding in Telecel. I hold a completely different view to that.
You are saying that the spectrum is money. No problem. What I'm saying now is that with what situation we have,
yes,
if Telecel does not find additional capital injection,
yes,
and AT does not get a buyer or somebody who's supposed to deal with that 200 million debt, your policy means MTN will become the monopoly. That's the fact.
That's not the fact. We have a number of proposals.
No, I gave a condition. I said if.
Yes, and I'm saying that scenario will not play out because we have a number of offers on the table today from several investors who want to put capital, inject capital into any of the two. Into any of the two.
And government will encourage that.
We're reviewing them because again, like I said, I'm not just going to jump at the first proposals that come to me because we've seen that happen with Telecel, for example, where $100 million was promised upfront. It's not come. And that, again, I say, is the failure of the regulatory authority and policy maker because you gave the approval for the acquisition. And that acquisition was contingent on certain promises and commitments that were supposed to have been fulfilled. The reasons why they weren't fulfilled, only the former minister can explain.
My only concern is that if I'm an investor,
yes,
and I look at this chart,
yes,
and I see that MTN has now been given net neutrality to basically improve their network, which is great. MTN, I don't know how I'm going to compete. How will anybody want to put money? Don't forget that you see, and I'm not here to defend the previous minister, but my understanding of what she did with the 5G and that 10-year thing for the consortium was to try and sort of bring more competition into the space by giving an advantage to the smaller players.
So, for example, have you seen the rollout of 5G or 4G site?
For you know, but I know.
No, there is none. I know it was launched on the 1st of November last year, but there's nothing to show for it.
I know that AT and Telecel are in the process of connecting to the platform that they are building. I'm told they have 16 out of 22 sites ready. This is what I'm told. MTN hasn't said what they're doing. So my understanding from outside is that the minister is trying to give AT and Telecel a chance to be more competitive in the 5G space.
So that's
which is why the policy of using the...
No, Bernard, and that's why I'm explaining to you that, for example, if that was the minister's intention, then the understanding of the sector was limited.
Really?
Because there is no way you could do that, except today, and part of the conversation right now is to give a company like AT some kind of quasi network to run on, because on its own, its core and billing cannot do beyond 3G.
Okay.
Do you get the argument?
Yes.
Now the point you're also making here is this: when you introduce certain dynamics, and I don't want to go into certain areas because those are policy issues. When you introduce certain dynamics, you need to know that there are push and pull factors. You need to be mindful that whatever, yes, giving tech neutrality to MTN to be able to do, again, tech neutrality doesn't allow them to do 5G.
Fair enough.
It allows them to do only 4G. We've had a 5G license holder for in excess of a year.
Yes.
It was launched on the 1st of November.
Yes.
In fact, this afternoon, I had a call with someone from the consortium. They have issues with the regulator, issues which I'm dealing with. but there are issues fundamentally that they have to deal with as well. They gave me a May deadline because I asked them for a deadline to operate. If they can't hold the country
to go live.
You
gave them, but you've extended to June,
they,
right?
They met me in Barcelona and said May. Subsequently in Ghana, they said June. I've told them I will hold them to the June deadline because we need to run. But again, Bernard, let's be very mindful about one thing. 5G, as we speak today, does not have a consumer market case. 5G is industry specific. So with 5G, look,
we have only 1 million devices in Ghana that
absolutely
can use 5G.
So 5G is not about people. The commercialization of 5G is not in people downloading movies or people doing video calls. It's in use cases like telemedicine, like your ports, like mining, like offshore oil drilling. Those are the specific use cases. And so you need to be minded that even today, if you were not to fix the fundamental problems with the networks, and even those other networks jumped on to a platform, if you were a mining company and both businesses, the significant market player and any of the other players were to make a pitch to you, what will be your preference automatically? And that's why I'm saying that you need to be guided and minded about how you even roll out the NGIC platform to correct the dystopia. Because again, and
I know you didn't agree with that in opposition, but now that you are in government, you have access to more information and you are seeing that there are many implications of any decision you make. Are you going to allow the 10-year to run for this shared platform to see out its lease? Or if the June deadline elapses and they are not able to go live, would you be minded to start considering your options?
All options are on the table, especially if the June deadlines are not met. I'm one who's not quick to just cancel contractual agreements. However, I'm very open to renegotiating and restructuring arrangements.
Because I think that
the regulator has the legal power to amend the terms of any license that has been given. Because again, like I said, if by June we are still where, I don't expect us to be sitting where we are, but if that is the case, then we will be having a certain
what I'm told is that they've been able to set up 16 of their 22 cell sites. That seems reasonably...
For me, I want the plan, and again, I can check my notes from that meeting. The plan is very, very simple. There's supposed to be about 350 sites, both 4G and 5G.
So if by June you don't see a live operation of 5G, you will consider your options, which includes everything, including possible renegotiation or termination.
Like I said, I'm not one who jumps quickly to terminate, especially when there are implications for the state. However, I'm very open to renegotiating the terms of licenses.
Let me take a breather.
Not work for us.
I have an hour and a half today. Since you did 5 hours of vetting, 1.5 hours on this show is nothing at all. We'll read your questions as well. Lots of them are coming. We'll talk about the SIM registration. He will finish up on the point about 5G. And then we'll also talk about other issues in the sector, including the radio and the digital platforms for media and some of those other issues.
I mean, just for clarity's sake, from my notes, I was trying to get my notes. 350 sites, 50 of those sites are supposed to be 5G. There's supposed to be 200 to 250 sites in Accra, 100 to 150 sites in Kumasi. These are commitments.
You hold them by this.
Yeah, that were made.
But you're giving them up to June.
Yes.
To see where we are with this. We're still
I think it's only fair.
We'll be right back. This is the point of view. Please don't go away. We'll read your comments when we come back as well.
Excellent. Be that business owner that stands out and is very productive.
You're so confident. How do you do it?
It starts with Built. Where does your confidence come from? Paperwork made simple. Built takes all the hassle away. Yeah, don't be like her. Built is your all-in-one simplified finance platform. It's your home for invoices, payments, your payroll, and so much more.
Oh, wow.
Grow your business today. Sign up now at built.africa. Download the Built app now.
Life is a celebration of moments, big and small. sun is scorching, I'm feeling the heat.
With POV drink, every moment becomes a refreshing celebration. From the beach to your home, in every corner of your world, POV drink at a burst of refreshment.
Give me POV cocktail and tangerine.
Celebrate every moment with POV drink. Refreshment for every occasion. POV drink, a taste you will love.
P for POV.
This advert is FDA approved.
Remember who we are singing now. At risk of prostate enlargement. We a member or her 20 ebitiminya prostate cancer. 5 bitimi afamu. Nadia ubefamu.
Actually, this is not my fault.
And to wada. Entina midi meniche Executive Prostate Center.
Executive Prostate Center is a unique medical center where we harmonize in-depth traditional medicine with cutting-edge science and technology to cure, to treat, and to prevent diseases like prostate enlargement, prostate cancer.
Executive Prostate Center. Madame facilities no any professional medical care.
Sisi a bibia clear our system ni. Ye nro ne so de natural. Into we koso afama ye.
Executive Prostate Center. My cured.
Welcome back to The Point of View. We're live with Samuel Nate George, who's the Minister for, I have to look for the name, Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation. He's also MP for Ningo Pram Pram. A few comments have come in on the stream. Please ask what measures are being put in place to mitigate fraud targeting MTN customers. I've seen a lot of this on MTN. What measures is he taking? This is from Nana Boachi, by the way. Noah Kwabena says, what measures is he taking to address MTN's Momo-related fraud? Indeed, there's a video circulating of a woman who claims that 10,000 cedis of her money was taken this week, and it's been circulated variously. I'll send it to you. Ben, please ask the minister about timelines. Welbeck is Siama. It is in relation to the 1 million coders. Samuel George understands his job. This is from somebody called Whatever News. Raymond Ochri says, yes, accessibility in the first cohort. We will pay a lot of lorry fare to Accra because our regions were not chosen. What will government do about this? I suspect he's talking about the fact that we are piloting in only 4 regions.
Yeah, I mean, people should relax. Bernard, we said we're doing 520. In 4 days, we had 50,000 applications.
In 4 days?
In 4 days, 50,000 applications. I'm sure right now.
Only 500 positions.
So what I've done is we've immediately put out a team that's looking at the state of our RICs so that we can immediately roll out at the RICs. Shout out to Honorable Minister for Finance, Honorable Latu Forsen. I need more money.
Wow. So are you saying that with resources you could do all the 250 districts simultaneously?
That is actually the plan. The plan is to be active in 280 community information centers across all the districts, simultaneously in 16 regional innovation centers. And look, my brother Eric AJ, who is the CEO of NEIP, reached out to me and said, look, NEIP also wants to be able to do some of these trainings. So there are several verticals that will happen. Like I said, one of the interesting proposals we got was from ALX. ALX is one of the biggest accelerators in Ghana. On their own, they've trained 100,000. Huawei has a plan to train 100,000 as well over 4 years. So these are all partnerships that we're looking to exploit. So I get the sense of enthusiasm, and for me, it speaks to the visionary thinking of President Mahama that this is something that the young people of our country and even older generation are latching onto so much. Look, I've had messages from CEOs, CEOs of businesses, reach out to me and say, Minister, I have registered. Please help me make sure I'm shortlisted. Unfortunately, I don't take part in the shortlisting, but my plan is to make sure that everyone who registers to be trained should be trained, and it's a resource thing. I'm confident that the Honorable Latu Forsen will find us the money to roll out live.
Questions from journalist Sami Dowona. He writes on Telco.
Yes.
Bernard, is Minister aware that Telecel's efforts to invest and improve network is being stifled by Huawei because Huawei, like MTN, does not favor the shared 5G network? That's number one. Number two, is he aware that potential investors specifically ask that, one, MTN SMP rules should be applied fully, two, no tech neutrality for MTN, and three, no spectrum for MTN? So which investors is he talking about? So this is a journalist who's asking two questions. Huawei on
Well, Sami Dowona is a very good friend of mine, but as always, he's a journalist, he's not the minister. As the minister, I receive the applications. And Bernard, when we go off air, I can play, even today, a voice note from a CEO of a major telco that wants to invest in Ghana, even after we have given tech neutrality and spectrum. Everybody has their own ask, everybody has their own angle. And like we were saying off air, everybody has what agenda they are pushing. So yes, we're still getting proposals. There are proposals coming in. And yes, like I said, the SMP rules need to be applied properly. They weren't applied properly. But it's not just about applying SMP rules. If people think that SMP is a silver bullet, like the former minister did, you will end up with the problem where an SMP player moves from 62% of market share to 74%. So, my brother Sami Dowona, the solution is not just SMP. It's also critical investment. You can't look at one side of the coin and not deal with the other part. When you do that, you're not holistically dealing with the problem.
The real challenge is the demand deficit. This is Kofi Dazi. He's saying, in relation to the 1 million coders, where are the jobs? And software coding in particular is especially very AI exposed from a disruption point of view. He says, though, that a focus on data governance is important. So I feel like he's saying that we are training a lot of people, but we should also think about whether there will be enough jobs to absorb them.
Absolutely.
That's the question.
And Bernard, in the next few weeks, you'll be hearing of us signing a landmark agreement with a country that's going to be investing close to $1 billion in Ghana's IT infrastructure. That's going to bring in the needed collaborations that will create the jobs. Because don't forget, a country like Mauritius is the size of Tema. And you've got all 10 big tech companies in there. Mauritius is unable. When I engaged the Mauritian government on partnerships, they asked us to send them 5,000 Ghanaians because it lacked the critical human capital. And we said to them, no, let's rather have those jobs outsourced to us here. We won't send the Ghanaians to you. Let's keep them here, pay them to work here. So the market share is big. There is a demand for places where people can outsource their jobs to because it's cheaper. And Ghana has a unique selling position. Our democracy is stable. Our country is peaceful. And so, and you've got a president everybody likes.
Okay. Let me ask a few questions about what you came to meet. In your press conference on Wednesday, you said that there were quite a number of worrying decisions that had been taken. You described some as ill-informed and reckless, which you believe you look into. Your first gripe was with the 80, and that there was no way we should have paid in it. We should have even taken over that company. You've already explained this. But you've also said that NITA has been involved in a number of things that you are not very happy with.
Yes.
Can you summarize briefly what the challenge with the NITA, and is it a contract or is it some arrangement?
Okay, so here's what it is. I mean, this NITA thing is full circle. In 2015, I was on the board of NITA, and I led the board at the time, and the Director General, who is now currently the head of the Signals Bureau, to do what we call the commercialization agreement.
Oh, really?
Atabwating. Atabwating was then Director General of NITA when I was on the board of NITA with Professor Nina Kukweno.
Wonderful.
Between 2013 and 2016. And we did the commercialization of NITA's excess capacity.
Okay.
Because at that time, don't forget, the Mahama administration had just completed the Eastern Corridor fiber, 48 core fiber. You had 120 LTE base stations. You had this new data center that had just been built, which was a 600 rack, and we're using only 160 racks. So excess capacity existed. And we're having challenges paying, at the time, main one. And so I said to them on the board, why don't we commercialize the excess capacity and have a revenue share, which is what we did. A company called Libera Ghana won that contract and took over that commercialization arrangement. But there have been a number of addendums signed to the main contract, and a new entity was introduced into the picture. And now what got me ticked off a bit was when I asked for, post the attack on the president's X handle, I asked for certain protocols to be updated around government emails, which run on the NITA server. And I was told that the NITA team had to seek permission and send a request to the private sector player.
Wow.
They had no physical or logical access to government assets, the data center. And I thought that that was not acceptable.
Of course not.
That could not be the terms of the commercialization agreement. And
because NITA's mandate is clear.
Absolutely. To manage government
so they've
IT infrastructure.
outsourced that to a private company.
In fact, what was supposed to have been outsourced was excess capacity. Now it is entire operations. And so you literally have NITA working, but we've gotten, I called the company into a meeting, demanded within 48 hours that we have access. As at last week, we had 95% both physical and logical access to all of our root servers to the data center.
Okay.
And right now what we're trying to do is do an audit of the lifespan of the contract so far to see if the terms of the contract, which spoke about excess capacity being commercialized, is what has happened, or if NITA's core business, because that's where my issue is. Bernard, if NITA was doing core business, was offering core business to Bernard before this commercialization arrangement, there is no reason why a new private partner should come and take a share of what business NITA was doing with you already. Now, if that new partner brought Samens on as a new client, they would have a revenue share on that revenue with NITA. But the instance or the suggestion I'm seeing from what we're seeing now is that even NITA's original clients, revenue from that is now all flowing into the private, and we need to have an audit. And so that audit would establish for us what has been, what should be, and what needs to be done.
So while you're auditing the NITA arrangement with Digital Gov and Southel and DataSem, I think the name is.
DataSem.
You've said that as for the common monitoring platform, Kelny GVG, you will terminate the deal. And you've also
I said I will not be extending.
Extending when it,
I will not renew when the money.
And you've also said that you will let the NCA do the revenue assurance.
Yes.
You think they can do it?
Bernard.
Because don't forget that this is two sides. There's the GRA side and then there's the NCA
I mean,
side.
most people think that the Kelny GVG deal is just an NCA thing. In fact, GRA pays more than NCA does pay. But Bernard, let's ask ourselves a question. This whole revenue assurance thing didn't start today. Started under Honorable Haruna Idris with GVG.
And then Suba.
Then there was Suba. That came under Omani. Then under Esla, you had Kelny GVG.
And you are going to stop it?
What is it that NCA could not have learned in the last 15 years to do? What's the rocket science that we're paying $1.5 million?
So you're not saying it wasn't necessary in the past, but you're saying that now they've learned enough.
Exactly. So I'm not saying that it was poor judgment.
Okay, I get you.
I'm just saying that there should be knowledge transfer. When you do these contracts, a critical component of it should be knowledge transfer. And when you look at what it is today, that at the time Esla also signed the Kelny GVG contract, it was about 28% of revenue accruing to the state that was being paid for the monitoring. Now, where we sit, it's about 86%. So you are paying more, you are paying 86% to monitor the remaining 14%. Makes no logical sense.
84%.
84%. 84%. To monitor the remaining 16%. Makes no sense to me.
Do you know if the GRA is interested in terminating? Because the agency under you is the...
It's NITA. That would be the finance minister's decision to make. But I think that myself and him are added them on that.
So we should not expect an extension of the common platform monitoring.
I've announced so.
You have announced so, even without Atu saying he will do it or he will not do?
Well, like I said, I can't make a decision for GRA.
But do you know the difference in what NCA does or what they do for NCA versus the role of GRA versus you guys?
Well, GRA is doing more of the tax compliance. We are doing more of the traffic flow and fraud detection and fraud management and all of that. That's what the platform ought to be doing.
The Ghana Digital Acceleration Program,
GDAP,
funded by the World Bank, you announced that you have terminated a contract of 13 out of the 15 staff.
Yes.
Why have you done that?
To save our country from potential international disgrace.
Why?
Like I said at the press conference, I do not want to prejudice an ongoing World Bank investigation.
Oh, so they are investigating this project?
Yes. They're investigating the predecessor of this project, the e-Transform, and they are also investigating some actions taken under the GDAP. Same individuals involved.
And on the basis of the primary financial information you have, you've terminated 13 of the people's contracts.
To signal to the World Bank that there's been a reset. And that, you see,
wow.
In Danway, in my local language, we say, Odemio momi, no omahia mio, meaning you don't stand in a cactus farm to take out the thistles. So if there is a problem that has warranted this level of and this investigation has been going on for 3 years, that tells you how serious it is.
So the 13 is waiting for the full disclosure of the World Bank report.
When the World Bank makes its report full, I will address the country on it. But this has been so well received by the World Bank that just this week you even had in Senegal come to meet with us in the ministry and say to us, we're excited about what you're doing and we're ready to support you even beyond the GDAP program.
You want to register SIMs. You've said this a lot of times. Just for people to understand, you're saying that the SIM registration was done, they did not link it with the Ghana card.
There was no SIM registration done.
So the data that was taken for people's SIMs
was a waste of everybody's time.
Because it was not the Ghana card records of people was not sort of
there was no verification.
No verification, no problem. Now I'm asking this because I remember at the time Professor Tifa wrote a letter.
Yes.
And sort of
I think 18 September 2021 or 22 thereabout.
Did you support him at the time?
Absolutely.
When he said that?
I cited his letter multiple times on the floor of the House, multiple times in press conferences, telling the immediate past minister that she was errant in her decision. Her decision was pure punishment. And that's why I was nicknamed Stubborn Academy, because we kept saying that, look, even the NIA has written explicitly saying that, look, you're not doing any verification. So what are you doing? Why are you making people queue? Why did you block people's SIMs?
And yet the telcos did the telcos complain? I don't remember.
They did several times, but who were you to speak?
So, and you've said that this particular one will be paid for by the telcos.
Yeah, they'll pay for it.
They'll pay for it.
I'll make them pay for it.
Is there an LI covering this?
So there's an LI that will be laying before Parliament. Because again, don't forget, that was one of my criticisms of Eslausu, that the re-registration she did, and that's why I've been clear that I'm not doing a re-registration, I'm doing a SIM registration. The last LI on the record for registration was 2010 by Haruna Idrisu. For the registration Haruna did. And don't forget, that registration Haruna did, there was no Ghana card at the time. And so there was no single source of truth. So even if I say I'm doing a registration on the back of Haruna's LI, which he laid, it doesn't speak to what I'm doing today, where I'm using technology and using the single source of truth, which is the NIA database.
But at least now we agree the NIA database is conk.
Well,
because in opposition, you took issues with NIA a lot. Even in terms of their approach, there was a time you even said you didn't have a Ghana card because you didn't want to be given any special treatment to register and all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that at least now we agree that the single source of truth that Professor Tiff had been shouting about, we all agree that it is.
It's work in progress. At least it's something you can leverage on. There are still challenges with the NIA system, but we are still working to make sure that we clean it. Because why? Bernard, there are people who are not Ghanaians who are holding not the foreign Ghana card, but the Ghanaian citizenship
but
card.
At least we admit that of all our national identities,
today that's one that you can use as a benchmark.
And
yes,
then
I agree.
In terms of their verification as well, the fact that you biometrically can verify.
Yes.
So at least now we've made some progress there.
Oh, definitely.
You work with us, and so we are not good. How long will it take the registration? Do you know?
Well, I don't want to put that time into it, but I'm sure that within a year we should be done.
I see. And we are not going to pay anything for it?
No, I don't expect us to pay anything.
Wonderful. You said in Kigali last 10 days or so that you see AI for Africa the same way mobile money changed the continent.
Yes.
Do we have an AI policy?
Yes, there was one that was rushed through for the elections when I took over office.
Are you serious?
Yes.
But I've seen the document have you seen the amount of 23 chapters or
have you seen the amount of typographical errors in there and the lack of coherence?
But do you
have
to criticize the
no, listen,
as the ranking member of the communications committee, you didn't have a chance to even look at it? Were you invited to be part of the
we were never consulted, stakeholders were never engaged, we never saw it, even the launch we were never invited.
Because I have in front of me...
And that's why today, as we speak, in fact, tomorrow morning... I
have in front of me a 101-page document, Ghana's National Artificial Intelligence Strategy 23 to 2033, 10-year strategy, August 11, 2024, and it's 101 pages.
Tomorrow morning at AH Hotel, the very same civil society and development partners who were supposed to have supported this agree with me that this strategy is not fit for purpose. And so tomorrow, they're meeting at AH Hotel to start the review of this strategy. I'm opening that session at 8:30. You're free to join us.
So is there nothing your predecessor did which you would continue?
Well, girls in ICT.
It's a good
thing. It's something she inherited from the previous NDC administration and expanded. I must give her credit that she expanded the scope of girls in ICT. In fact, this afternoon, I looked at the budget for this year's Girls in ICT, and we're working around it. So Girls in ICT is something that I would say she picked up, expanded, and I'm looking to also expand.
There was a controversy between Giba and her ministry over the DTT platform.
Yes.
Have you been briefed, and are you minded to revisit that matter?
I've spoken to Giba on the matter. I've told Giba that they should withdraw the case from court. They have a case in court because Giba has two legs to the issue. There's one about the DTT head end and contribution links, where they say that they don't want to be forced to do it only through KNet. Then there's a second one where they say that the minister was threatening to charge 15,000 a month for connection to the head end for distribution. So there's the contribution, there's the distribution. The contribution bit, I think, is what they've gone to court. I've said to them, take the case out of court, come back to me. I will set technical specifications from the ministry and say that, again, I'm not going to enforce a monopoly. So whoever your service provider is, it doesn't have to be KNet. It could be anybody. Whoever you are interested in using as a partner, these are my technical specifications for connection to the head end. If you can bring me any supplier who meets that specification, I'll allow you your contribution feed. If you get it. So I don't see why we should have rancor on that. On the other issue about contribution payment for the head end, it is a conversation we have to have.
Okay.
We would have to pay. Somebody has to pay for it. The government has been paying and carrying that load. It's unsustainable. Media houses will have to pay. But again, one of the things I have brought to the ministry is consultation. And in fact, the CEOs will tell you, in 8 weeks, I have met the CEOs together 3 times, individually over 8 times. Almost every week I meet
CEOs of
the MNOs.
Okay. Have you met media CEOs yet?
Not yet.
You need to because you also have a
media CEOs.
NCA is the regulator.
Yes, but that's just on your spectrum.
Yes.
And your frequency authorization. But when it comes to your content, you're under my brother Felix at government communications.
But without spectrum, you don't even have a business.
Yes, but so long as
NCA is our regulator. Yes. As is NMC.
Yes, but NMC is not under. That doesn't come under my
I'm saying that in terms of availability of spectrum for media houses.
Frequencies, yes. But we're doing a frequency audit as well.
Because the telcos give you more money, you meet them more regularly. Because you've met them 8 times. You haven't met Kwesi Chuma and Samens even once. You are meeting.
I have met Samens.
Okay, good. But my point is that you are meeting MNOs. Some of who owe us 200 million. They owe 200 million.
I'm meeting the MNOs because as a radio station or as a TV station, when you're doing your uplink, you want quality of service to be able to get it right.
Graphic and Times were struggling, and it's not within your purview, but even within our sector, there's clutter. So here we have just 3 big MNOs.
Yeah.
Okay, and even there it's not competitive. The media business is also very, very troubled.
Because I think that we've abused the assignment of frequency authorization. A country like Ghana should not have in excess of 600 frequency authorizations.
We are the most radio dense country in the world.
It is inimical to the growth of your business.
And you've also reduced that's NCA. You've reduced, in fact, what you've said, what NCA has done is that they've just sold it like trophy.
Absolutely,
and they've reduced even the length of our
coverage. If you leave me, I will rationalize this and you should have less than 100 radio stations. But then the next thing is you're going to hear Sam George is shutting down radio stations.
No, I don't think that's how it's done. I think there are things you can do. You need to do for consolidation to occur.
No. So you need to set KPIs for what a radio station really is. You understand me? Many people are holding authorizations today.
Yeah.
And they are not doing any production.
Most of them are just political people.
They just hold political shows and then they just repeat and syndicate radio news. Yeah. So if you set a certain bar, you would have people.
And it must be graded because we provide news for people across 16 regions.
We can have
we should be treated the same as other stations.
You can have right now you've got the commercial and the community, but you must have a tiered approach to this, such that look, you must meet a certain KPI benchmark. We can't just be giving spectrum everywhere. And for example, I started a rationalization of it. I sat with Media Foundation for West Africa and showed him the next 57 stations whose frequencies I wanted to suspend.
For what
not
offense?
revoke, several offenses. I showed it to him. And I said to him, and he says, look, Sam, we would support this because you have shown us what the infractions are.
You said,
because Bernard, let me just make the point.
Yeah.
You're complaining about how tough the ecosystem is.
Yeah.
But I know, because I said I've met some ends. I know that here at CTTV, you have someone whose job it is to constantly be checking with NCA that your paperwork is right, that you filed your taxes.
So we have 3 people.
You have 3 people.
Who do that
so your responsibility must be rewarded.
Okay.
And we must not support, in quotes, the lack of responsibility on the part of others who will sit down and allow their frequencies lapse and say that, because then what's the incentive for you to do what you do?
I agree with you. You said you've given the MNOs more space and that you've given them up to a period to improve their service, and that if they don't, you will crack the whip, which usually is a fine. Usually people say that when NCA fines these MNOs, they don't give the money to consumers. They use the money to do their own thing. So my appeal to you is that when MNOs are fined for poor service, the money must go to the person who suffers the poor service, not for NCA to build estates.
Reverend Engineer Franco, Wasuma.
Yeah, it's very important because you can't find people and use the money to do what you want. You must find a way of giving it back to people as a consumer protection law. I wish you well in your job.
Thank you so much.
very much.
We've done 1.5 hours.
You did 5 hours in Parliament, so you have not even warmed up. You know, use the rest of the time to go and join Bishop Ajinasai to pray.
Yeah, we need to.
Easter.
We need to. Thank you so
much.
But
I want to show you something. I think you've been dancing this weekend. Where is it? Where's the video, guys?
Charlie, I'll go block your SIM.
No, okay, you are this your wife.
No, this is.
You're best man.
Best man, and then the bridesmaid.
Can a married man be best man?
I don't know anything against it.
And he was your best man?
He was my best man 13 years ago.
Your younger brother?
My younger brother, yes.
Wow.
He was my best man 13 years ago.
You are just happy he's married. Your brother is married.
Yeah, at least, Charlie. Right now, he can't be calling me to help.
Are you only 2? Is he only brother?
Yeah, my only brother. We're 2 boys, 2 girls. So I've got 2 sisters and 1 brother.
So this is you doing best man dance?
This was the entry dance, yeah. So he came in with his wife after this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations to him.
Thanks.
Well
now he joined the table of men.
You don't have to be married to be a man. You have to be productive and useful and honest. Samuel Nate-George, great talking to him. And this is his, I think, his 2nd interview since he took over.
Yeah.
He's launching the program on Wednesday and we'll be there as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.